Exposed. The sinister, unexplained creature we discovered in the haunted depths of the ocean. Claire's phone rang just as the sun dipped below the horizon, casting long, eerie shadows through the window of her modest home. "You won't believe what I found." Jake's voice trembled, vibrating with a fear that cut through Claire's mundane evening humdrum. It washed ashore. Something monstrous. Panic surged through her, not just for him, but for the innocent laughter of Lucy and Ben she could still hear ringing from the living room. "Calm down, Jake," Claire urged, though her heart raced, each beat echoing the waves crashing eerily against the coast. "What are you talking about?" But in the back of her mind, she could already feel the chill of dread settle in, an invasive whisper that forced her to imagine the unthinkable. Days passed, and the atmosphere shifted like the turbulent tide. It was a change Claire could feel in her bones, thickening the air around her. First, the neighbors began to disappear one by one, vanishing without a trace. The once happy town turned into a stage of paranoia. Each glance exchanged weighted with fear. Rumors swam like fish in the salty air, making even the most timid-hearted tremble. Children started waking from nightmares, their innocent minds caught in a web spun from darkness. Claire watched Lucy and Ben as they played near the water, their laughter unsettling against the backdrop of gloomy skies. An inexplicable pull drew her children closer to the waves that now sounded more like a growl than a lullaby. Something unnatural lurked in the depths, its malevolence washing ashore with every foam-tipped crest. Each night, those waves whispered secrets, and each night, Claire felt herself teetering on the brink of something terrible. Before we continue, I need to tell you something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to their system, and many people are missing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and select all notifications so you don't miss future videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps me with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. Claire ventured to the shore with trembling hands, desperate to uncover the truth hidden beneath the turbulent surface. What she found left her gasping for breath. A grotesque shadow emerged in the moonlight, an abomination of nature tangled in ghostly seaweed, staring back with hollow eyes. It felt like a mirror reflecting the town's darker soul. Fear coursed through her veins as she traced the contours of the creature, each curve a reminder of the secrets her seemingly perfect community held. With each secret she revealed, trust shattered like glass beneath her feet. The warm smiles of her neighbors morphed into masks of deceit, guilt glimmering in their eyes. Her heart pounded louder, and then, in the dead of the night, an earth-shattering roar vibrated through the ground, the creature's call resonating with Claire's own fears. Her children stood mesmerized at the water's edge, dangerously close to the chaos brewing beneath. It was then she realized the creature was not just a figment of horror. It was a reflection of the town itself, a storm of concealed malignancy threatening to consume them all. Every heartbeat screamed at her to pull her children away, but the question loomed heavy. Would fleeing be enough? Claire stood paralyzed at the precipice of truth, the wave of terror crashing toward her, darker depths calling her home. Would she save her kids or plunge into the abyss of hidden horrors? The moment of decision approached, but the tide surged wildly ahead, mocking her hesitation. Claire's breath caught in her throat as the creature's presence loomed larger in her mind. Panic clawed at her, hot and frantic. She tore her gaze from the abomination back to Lucy and Ben, who now stood frozen, eyes wide and unblinking, as if caught in a spell. "Get away from the water," she screamed, her voice cracking like thunder, but the children didn't move. Something dark and sinister gripped the air around them. A pulse of energy seemed to wash over the shoreline, drawing Claire toward the enigmatic figure. It felt like an invocation, an ancient call echoing through the depths of her soul, promising knowledge and truth if only she would step closer. But leaving her children within reach of that pull seemed unthinkable. As she rushed toward them, the wind picked up, swirling with an urgency of its own, sending shivers down her spine. The ocean roared. Each wave crashing against the rocks seemed to form an angry voice, warning her of what she didn't want to know. Ben turned toward her. "Mom, look!" His finger pointed shakily to the creature that now writhed, breaking free from the grasp of the seaweed. It seemed to throb under the moonlight, every movement deliberate, almost sentient, as though it had waited centuries to greet them. Fear coiled in Claire's stomach, panic twisting her insides. Lucy, Ben, run. But instead of retreating, they stepped forward, entranced. Their innocent curiosity drew them closer and closer. An electric tension surged around them. She could feel it shock the air. Claire's heart raced. Desperation turned her legs into lead. She fought to reach them, but it was as though an invisible force held her back, keeping her at bay. With wild determination, she pushed through the weight of her fear, breaking the barrier of something unseen. Get back. Right now? The horror of what might happen eclipsed her thoughts, and she barreled into them, wrapping her arms around their little bodies. In that instant, as Claire hurried to pull them away, the creature emitted a low, vibrating hum that resonated right through her chest. It sent a wave of dread crashing over her, washing away the remnants of her resolve. She glanced back. The eyes of the creature were wider now, and the hollow void seemed to speak, saying what she feared most, that it wanted something from them. The sudden flash of darkness, a wail pierced the air, cutting through the quiet. The ground shook. Shadows of neighbors, once familiar faces, now twisted in anguish, surged behind her. They clawed their way into view, their expressions contorted by panic. "Help us!" one cried, a neighbor she once waved to across the street. They were tangled in the darkness that had claimed the shore, drifting as if between two worlds, skin pale and eyes glazed with hopelessness. "Join us," another rasped, their voice a mere echo of the town's laughter that once brought her comfort. "Claire, we can stay," Lucy pleaded, her innocent eyes reflecting an understanding of something far removed from childhood. "They need us." "No, we need to go," Claire shouted, her words caught in her throat, heavy with despair. "We can't." Before she could finish her warning, a thick fog rolled in from the water, thick and choking. Visibility fell away fast, swallowing the beach in a suffocating haze. She felt a tugging at her heart, the creature's call more urgent now, a temptation she couldn't comprehend. Claire's breath quickened as she clutched her children tighter, the cries of her neighbors swallowed in the rising tide of horror. From within the fog, dark outlines began to emerge, slithering shapes that danced on the edges of her sanity. What awaited her beneath that murky grip gored at her instincts, and with every ounce of strength, she pulled her children back against her. But as the fog enveloped them, she couldn't shake the feeling that something was waiting not just for her, but for all of them. Somewhere deep inside, she understood the truth now. Perhaps fleeing would only feed the beast. Before she could grasp that thought, the shadows rushed forward, twisting and turning in a menacing dance. And then, as suddenly as it came, the fog shifted, revealing the shoreline ablaze with the light of 1,000 hidden horrors. A low rumble echoed through the ground, the atmosphere thick with anticipation. Something was coming, and Claire was powerless to stop it. What had she unleashed upon her family and her town? The creature's call was louder than anything she'd heard before, and as her heart sank, she heard it whispering once again, pulling her deeper into the unknown. Would she discover the truth too late? Or worse, would she lose everything she loved to the darkness that had consumed their once peaceful home? The looming question wasn't if they could escape, but rather, what sinister force awaited them in the shadows. The air felt electric, thick enough to choke on. The fog twisted around them like angry fingers, and Claire's heart hammered in her chest, a frantic rhythm of fear. The shadows, still vague but looming larger, beckoned closer like a cruel joke played by the universe. They weren't alone anymore. "Mom," Lucy whispered, her voice a mere breath against the rolling tide. Claire locked eyes with her daughter, the shimmer of innocence in Lucy's gaze dimming as the enormity of their predicament wrapped around them like a noose. A low growl echoed from beyond the thick mist, reverberating off the very ground they stood on. Claire squeezed her children tighter, an instinctual shield against the chaos threatening to consume them. "Stay close," she barked, her voice brittle with urgency. Ben's small body trembled against her. "What is happening?" he whimpered, his fear palpable. The boy's eyes darted nervously between Claire and the encroaching darkness, as if he could sense the malevolence lurking beyond the fog. The fog shifted, curling and writhing as if it had a mind of its own. Claire could hear whispers dancing on the wind, incoherent yet menacing. A chorus of grating voices, each layered with despair. "Stay with us, don't go," the words surged and fell, drawing nearer, promising comfort mixed with dread. Claire forced herself to move, pushing through the fog like she was wading through molasses. Each step felt heavier, each breath more labored, as though the very air was conspiring against her will to escape. "We need to get out of here," she shouted, but the words seemed to vanish into the gloom, swallowed whole. The wailing of her neighbors quickly grew louder, a cacophony that clawed at her sanity. Their faces twisted in agony, each expression a reflection of the horrors that swarmed in the darkness. "Claire, help us. We are so cold," they cried, and the sound shot through her like a shard of glass. "Mom, I don't like this," Ben whimpered, burying his head into her shoulder. She couldn't soothe him. Dread filled her, as frozen and heavy as the fog itself. Decisions raced through her mind with terrifying speed. The monster, whatever it was, thrived on their despair. It played with their fears, drawing them ever closer. "Lucy, turn back," Claire urged, but Lucy, seemingly lost in a trance, blinked slowly as if caught between two worlds. Her little hand reached out, as if to grasp the shadows swirling by, her innocent nature grappling against an extraterrestrial force. The primal instinct in Claire screamed. She could lose them both. "No," Claire erupted, her voice raw as she turned and pushed against the tangible darkness that surrounded them. The air thickened as she forced herself forward, adrenaline flooding her veins. "You can't take my children." With a sudden, icy grip, something snatched at her ankle. Instinct kicked in, and Claire tore her leg free, glancing down just in time to see a glimmering object emerge from the darkness, a grotesque head, a hideous visage of a long-forgotten nightmare, with fish-like eyes sparkling sinisterly under the pale moon. The screams from her neighbors melded with the anguished groans of the creature as it lunged toward them, the shadows writhing around it, as if alive. The figure had teeth sharp, jagged, slick like barnacles, and it beckoned with a silent promise of terror. At that moment, Claire realized the whispers weren't just from her neighbors. They were from the creature, pulling at her mind, promising sensational truths wrapped in oblivion. What was the creature? What did it want? It was a truth she now understood held power over her soul. "Run!" She screamed again, adrenaline sparking through her limbs as she grasped both of her children's hands. But where? The shore seemed to warp and twist under the heavy presence of the creature. They might as well have been in a living nightmare. And as the shadows lunged, the fog began to tremble, revealing a path forward like a twisted corridor leading straight to horror. The choice lay before them: a plunge into uncertainty or a retreat into the loving grasp of the dark. Could they outrun what called to them? That question vibrated in the air, heavier than the fog that threatened to swallow them whole. Claire's mind raced as she charged forward, grasping her children tightly. Every fiber of her being screamed that the answers lay ahead, but would they find salvation beyond the shadows, or only further despair? Claire pushed forward, the fog swirling like a living thing around her, wrapping around them and dragging at their ankles. It felt colder now, the chill creeping deeper into her bones. She could barely see through the mist, the shadows closing in, their shapes becoming more defined, more threatening. Each breath sent tremors through her chest, reminding her of the danger lurking just beyond sight. "Mom, can we stop?" Ben's small voice broke through the cacophony of whispers and growls, trembling with desperation. "Please, I can't run anymore, no. We can't stop," Claire urged, her voice a harsh whisper, as if to avoid waking the malevolence in the fog. They had to keep moving. There was no turning back. But doubt gnawed at her insides. What if she led them straight into the heart of whatever this was? Suddenly, Lucy paused. Claire felt the pressure of her daughter's hand loosen, and in an instant, panic surged through her. "Lucy!" she cried out, spinning around to find her daughter staring into the fog with wide, unblinking eyes, frozen in place. Lucy's lips parted as if she were about to speak. But what came out was not words, just a low, haunted whisper carried by the wind. "Mom, it's calling me no," Claire shouted, breaking the spell, her heartbeat roaring in her ears. She dashed forward and yanked Lucy back just as a mass of shadows surged from the mist, barely missing her. The creature was closer now. She could feel it, the air thrumming with its hunger, its presence almost corporeal. "Help us," echoed the cries of the neighbors again, their voices melding into one mournful sound, tugging at Claire's sanity. The fog thickened at their cries, swelling like a heartbeat, and Claire felt the shift in the atmosphere around them. "Keep your eyes on me," Claire commanded, adrenaline surging through her. She squeezed Lucy's hand tight, pulling her along, eyes darting for a glimpse of an exit as shadows danced furiously at the edges of her vision. The looming creature seemed to pulse with each step, growing larger, hungrily pacing them. And then a shriek erupted from somewhere in the fog, a sound so piercing it pulled at her insides. It was a scream of raw terror, twisting Claire's stomach, raw with hopelessness and dread. Her mind filled with images of her neighbors, their faces twisted and pleading, becoming one with the shadows. "Claire, don't leave us," the words slithered through the fog, a promise laced with despair. The chilling sensation of something clawing at her spirit clouded her resolve. "They need help, don't you want to help them?" "No," Claire shouted, the sound almost lost to the whispers and cries. "They're not real." She had to keep reminding herself, had to remind Lucy and Ben. The moment of weakness her children felt for kindness, for compassion, was their greatest danger. The pull of the fog was relentless, clawing at her skin like invisible talons. She pushed through, dragging them both along, fear spurring her forward. "Mom, I'm scared," Ben cried, his voice cracking. "I don't want to be here anymore." "I know, honey. Just hold on tight." It felt like the ground was shifting beneath their feet, the shadows morphing like a living, breathing entity. And for a moment, Claire had no idea which way to go. The whispers began to surround them, becoming a chant, growing louder, drowning out her thoughts. "Join us, join us, join us, don't listen," Claire shouted, forcing herself to move. But the fog's grip tightened as she pushed through the grasping darkness. All she could think about was getting to safety, but the creature seemed to anticipate her every move, closing in relentlessly. And then, a glimmer, a distortion in the fog, a flicker of light that seemed distant but inviting. She felt it tug at her, pulling her faster, urging her onward. Were they really headed toward salvation, or just deeper into despair? "Claire!" Lucy's voice broke through in a sudden whisper, shaking the very air around them. "Mom, it's here." Claire turned to see a pair of glowing eyes staring back at them from the fog, unblinking and hungry. Time distorted, reality warped. The atmosphere thickened, nearly crushing her spirit. As darkness loomed, Claire felt the last vestiges of her hope dissipate, twisting into the fog. And then, from the depths of despair, she heard one last haunting phrase that struck fear deeper than anything before. "You'll be ours soon." With that, Claire grappled for a way through the shadows. But would there be a way out, or merely an entrance to the horrors surging beneath? Claire's heart raced as the glowing eyes widened, their light cutting through the darkness like a knife. The creature was close, too close. She could feel the heat radiating from it, a pulse that thudded against her chest. "Run," she shouted, yanking Lucy and Ben with her, but her voice barely cut through the thrum of terror tightening around them. The fog clawed at them, a cold wind that seemed to whisper secrets in their ears. "Claire, join us." The voices morphed into a unified, seductive murmur that was almost recognizable. They flitted through her mind like fireflies, dragging with them the images of her neighbors, their faces stretched in torment, mouths agape in desperate calls for help. But they weren't real. They couldn't be, yet the shadows loomed with increasing menace. Each step they took felt like running through molasses, a twisted game of chase against something that lived in the darkness. The ground beneath trembled, and Claire stumbled, nearly losing her grip on her children. The whispering soft pulsed around her, becoming more coherent. "Stay with us." "No," Claire screamed, forcing her legs to move faster, shoving through the oppressive weight of the fog. Then there was a forked two paths snaking into the darkness. Both were enigmas, shrouded in mystery, with no sign of hope. "Which way?" she gasped, her breath coming out in frantic bursts. The creature's hunger seemed to swell with their indecision. Ben's face was pale, pinched with terror, and Lucy clung to her like a lifeline. "Please, Mom," Ben whimpered, looking from Claire to the paths as if a choice would save them. Left, Claire shouted, her instinct taking over. She turned, dragging them toward the murky passage, the fog swirling more viciously, clawing at her back like frantic hands urging them to stay. The air thickened as the shadow pulsed behind them, audible now a breathless rasping that sent shivers crawling down Claire's spine. She forced herself not to look back. They ran, the cries of their neighbors fading to a distant echo, but the oppressive weight of the fog pressed in, wrapping tighter, consuming the last remnants of sanity. And then she saw it. A blink of clarity, a light deeper in the left maw of darkness. Hope surged briefly in her chest, pushing aside the suffocating dread. It's there. Hold on, Claire shouted, and they surged towards it, veins racing with the taste of relief. But the light flickered, dimming like a dying star, revealing twisted remnants of what once was. Ghostly forms flickered in and out, faces she knew intertwined with the shadows. Join us, they whispered again, hands reaching out, beckoning. Reality distorted. Mom. Lucy's voice cut through the fog again, trembling with fear. They're not gone. They're not real. Shut it out. Just keep running. Claire fought to keep her voice steady as she pulled the kids through the visions that clawed at the edges of their eyes, pushing towards the dying light, false hope flickering like a mad candle. Suddenly, the ground gave way beneath her. She felt herself tumbling forward, gravity betraying her in this place between life and vengeance. Claire hit hard and instinctively reached for her children, but the darkness was greedy, snatching Ben from her grasp. No, she screamed, panic straining her voice. Ben's terrified eyes widened as he fell into the void that yawned beneath them. In that heartbeat, Claire's world shattered. The shadows surged, enveloping him with a hunger that made her insides twist. Mom! His scream echoed, pure terror slicing through the air as Lucy screamed beside her, pressing against Claire with wide, frightened eyes. The glowing eyes returned, now larger, more filled with hunger than before. Combining with the chant of "Join us" with a surge of desperate strength, Claire lunged toward the gaping maw, her cries mingling with Ben's as she reached desperately, heart hammering against her ribs. But the darkness was strong, relentless. Please, you can't take them. Her voice cracked, desperation coating every word. Would she risk losing herself to save him? Or would she stand strong and fight the shadows threatening to consume them all? She hesitated for a heartbeat that felt like an eternity. Then she grasped Lucy tightly and pulled. We have to go. Now. What lay ahead was uncertain, but Claire felt the remnants of her sanity slip away into the ravaging fog. Time faded. With one last echo of her name that dissolved into a whisper, Claire braced herself for the unknown. Would they escape? Could they confront the darkness? Or was this the end? The frenzy of fog churned around them as Claire stumbled forward, dragging Lucy deeper into the unknown. Each step felt like wading through a thick, sticky web, the weight of despair pressing down like a lead blanket. Fear clung to her like sweat, the echoes of Ben's scream ringing in her ears, repeating over and over, endlessly haunting. Mom, where's Ben? Lucy's voice trembled, barely above a whisper, the light of her eyes wavering under the pallor of the fog. Claire's heart clenched, a vice squeezing moisture from her throat. He's fine. We just need to keep moving. The lie tasted bitter, but she couldn't let Lucy see the truth that gnawed at the edges of her mind, that Ben might be gone, swallowed by the darkness. Suddenly, the ground beneath them solidified. Claire froze. Dead leaves, brittle and crackling, covered a path that looked almost familiar, but the feel of it sent a chill spiraling down her spine. The sounds of the fog morphed. The whispered pleas faded, replaced by a guttural growl that emanated from her left. Stay close, Lucy, she warned, pulling her daughter tighter against her. They moved cautiously, but the forest, if that's what it was, seemed alive, flickering shadows darting in and out of their vision. Mom, I can see them. Lucy's hand shook as she pointed ahead. A cluster of faces floated in the dusk, distorted and gruesome, a mix of neighbors, friends, lost souls. Their mouths opened in eternal screams, eyes void of humanity. Lucy, don't look. Keep your eyes on me, Claire shouted, forcing her face to remain steady, but her skin prickled with fear. The weight of those hollow gazes bore down on her, a chilling pressure that clawed at her sanity. As they moved, The growl morphed into a series of chaotic whispers, insistent and haunting. Claire, join us, come to the dark. No. Not now. Claire screamed back, her voice breaking against the oppressive symphony of voices. With each word, the fog thickened, shifting around her and Lucy as if the ground itself was alive and hungry. They ran again, but it was as if an unseen force pushed back against them, slowing them, making the air thick and unyielding. Just when her legs began to buckle, Claire spotted a sliver of light piercing through the fog, a small door, ajar, beckoning them with warmth. Lucy, look, she pointed frantically. We can make it. They sprinted toward it, hope surging anew. Just as they reached the door, it swung wider, revealing a cramped room filled with forgotten memories, paintings peeling from walls, dust settling over their stations as though time had paused. In the corner, flickering shadows tangled around a darkened figure. Mama, a small voice whispered, the same voice Claire had thought she'd lost. Help me, please. The shadows wriggled in delight as Claire rushed toward the figure, instinct plunging her forward without reason. Then she froze. The figure stood obscured, but the sound, oh, that voice. Claire's heart stuttered as realization crashed over her. No, Ben, no. The darkness erupted, tendrils wrapping around her, pulling her back as she reached for him. The air thickened with a rancid smell, and the room unraveled in chaos. Fingers of shadow curled cruelly around her, twisting the fabric of reality itself. Don't lose her, don't lose both, the voice sneered, now echoing with a sinister mockery. Claire, Lucy screamed, fighting against the suffocating bonds that held them. No, Claire cried. The truth dawned with horrifying clarity as she struggled against the tendrils that sought to pull her away from her children. But reality cracked, vulnerability slid through her fingers. What price would she pay to save them both? And as the shadows advanced, pushing her away, the door slammed shut behind them, sealing away whatever hope remained. In the suffocating darkness, Claire's breath raced. I want to let you take us. But deep down, she could hear them laugh, feel the cold chill of despair wrapping tighter. Would she lose her children to the darkness? Or was there still a chance to save them against all odds? Air thick with dread suffocated Claire as she struggled against the shadowy grip. Desperation clawed at her throat. Lucy, hold on to me. I'm coming. The tendrils strained, squeezing tighter, their cold embrace icy against her skin. The dark laughter echoed, twisting around her. It was mocking her, devouring every ounce of hope. Claire could almost feel the light receding, the weight of her failures slumping her shoulders. Mom. Lucy's voice cracked like glass, breaking through the chaos. Claire felt the heart-rending tug. Her heart drummed violently, drowning in panic. Let go of her. Claire roared, voice raw with rage and fear. She braced herself, shoulders back, channeling every tear, every scream, every memory of her children. The darkness recoiled slightly, just enough for Claire to shift a few inches, turning toward Lucy. The little girl was battling her own shadows, wide eyes flickering like candle flames. Her tiny fists pushed against the visible horror, but it was relentless, a shadowy beast intent on consuming them. Mom, I can't, Lucy gasped, eyes watering as she struggled to see Claire through the engulfing fog. That a surge of adrenaline blasted through Claire. You can. Just keep fighting. You're so strong, Luce. The pressure intensified. The darkness stirred menacingly around them, its whispers now a cacophony. Give in, Claire. It's easier that way. Let the shadows embrace you, both of you now. Claire screamed, voice hoarse. I will never let you take her. With that, she lunged forward, open hands reaching for Lucy, and clutched her daughter tightly. In that moment, a boyish giggle cut through the dark clutter, sharp and piercing like a knife. Mommy, the voice cooed, echoing from the depths of the shadows. It was Ben, or something that wore Ben's voice. She recoiled, her grip on Lucy faltering. Ben, is that you? Come play, Mommy. Don't you want to join us? The taunting words leered, the shadows slickening around Claire. Get out. This is a trick, Claire shouted, biting down on the fear that threatened to consume her. But the sound of her heart thrumming in her ears grew louder, drowning out the demonic laughter. Somewhere amidst the whispers, Claire grasped at a flicker of strength. She could feel Lucy's small fingers intertwining with her own, a lifeline against the chaos. The shadows boiled, pushing against them, swarming as if trying to ensnare their combined resolve. "Don't listen. That is not him. Fight it," Claire urged as the shadowy mass pressed harder against them, filling her mind with visceral images of despair. The flash of light ignited in Claire's vision, a brief glow pushing through the suffocating dark, and she felt warmth spreading through her chest. "You need to let go of the fear, Claire." Tendrils paused, confused, and in that moment, she pushed. With every ounce of love, she pulled Lucy to her. Shadows hissed, and the laughter became enraged. They recoiled, sensing the strength that bloomed between a mother and her child. "That's it," Claire shouted, embracing the fear rather than succumbing to it. "I won't let you take my children." The shadows thrashed. The laughter grew hoarse and twisted. The pull back to the dark grew weaker as Claire willed herself to step closer to the light, taking Lucy with her, with one final shout. "No." They tore through the darkness together, the tendrils loosened, and for a heartbeat, the fog parted. But before they could escape, a chilling whisper slithered into her ear. "This isn't over, we always come back." Just as everything came crashing down, the ground beneath them shifted. Claire barely caught a glimpse of the door tilting shut, slamming into nothingness. They fell, and the darkness swallowed them whole once more. In the void, Claire's grip on Lucy tightened. "Don't let go." What had they entered? What had they unleashed? As the cold surrounded them, she wondered if there was indeed an end or just another gate to fear. The dark engulfed them, pressing in like a heavy blanket. Claire's heart pounded, each beat a frantic call to action. "Where are we?" she whispered, fear tightening her throat as she clutched Lucy's small hand in her own. "Mommy, I'm scared." Lucy's voice trembled, echoing across the void. "Me too, baby," Claire replied, forcing herself to sound strong. "But we're together. That's what matters." The shadows shifted around them, a gnawing sensation gnashing at the edges of her mind. Whispers surrounded them, a sickening chorus of regret and despair, not just their own but others, those lost and forgotten. She could almost hear snippets of their lives, the rooms they once inhabited, the laughter that filled them all now swallowed by darkness. Suddenly, something brushed against Claire's leg, sending icy shards of terror coursing through her. She gasped, jerking away. "What was that?" "Mommy," Lucy squealed, panic rising in her voice. "It's okay," Claire reassured, though tremors escaped her steady facade. "Stay close." She shuffled backward, holding her daughter tighter. The ground beneath them shifted again, the sensation like slipping on ice. Claire strained her eyes to see beyond the inky expanse. There were shapes, moving formlessly, shadowy figures that danced at the edges of her perception. Were they real? Or just her imagination, distorted by fear? Another brush against her ankle, a chill coursed from her foot to her spine. "We need to find a way out," Claire shouted, voice fierce yet uncertain, swallowed by the droning whispers. Lucy clung to her, terror-filled eyes scanning the swirling shadows. "What if we can't?" "No," Claire countered, love igniting her voice. "We can't give up. Not now, not ever." Suddenly, the laughter returned, but it was different, darker, more predatory. It resonated through the void, forceful and relentless. "You think you can escape?" it mocked. "You're already mine." Claire's throat tightened, and she felt the walls of despair beginning to close in again. "No, you don't own us." With newfound resolve, Claire felt the warmth of her love for Lucy swell within her. "We're going back. I will not let you have us." She took a step forward, dragging Lucy with her. The shadows howled, that sweet call of darkness twisted around them, fighting against their light. Claire pushed through, channeling all the strength she could muster. She squeezed Lucy's hand. "Just trust me. Keep moving." The ground reformed beneath them, and she could see the edges of something, a flicker of light ahead. It pulsed like a heartbeat. "Mommy, what is it?" Lucy's young voice was filled with wonder and fear, both emotions crashing like waves against her steady resolve. With a determined breath, Claire answered, "A way out. Just a bit further." They trudged forward, shadows swirling more fiercely than before, yet with each step, the light grew stronger. The whispers contorted into screams, a cacophony of rage and rebellion. Suddenly, the shadowy tendrils lunged at them, grasping hungrily. Claire felt the cold fingers wrapping around her leg. "No," she yelled, yanking her foot free. You will not take my daughter." In a last desperate act, she turned, facing the darkness. "We are not afraid of you. You're nothing without our fear." The shadows recoiled, the screams faltering for a split second. That slight moment of hesitation was all she needed. She pulled Lucy closer, breaking through the threshold of light, into a blinding brilliance. But as they crossed, a deafening roar erupted behind them. The darkness surged, furious, enveloping the light. Just before the entrance sealed shut, a single tendril shot out, coiling around Claire's wrist. She felt a chilling rush and unbearable grip before it vanished into the folds of shadow. They tumbled into the brightness, lucidity crashing over them. Claire gasped, breathless. Where were they? The surroundings transformed before her eyes, a stark, sterile room bathed in fluorescent light. But the joy of escape never settled in. An overwhelming dread settled in her chest, twisting. "Mommy, what is happening?" Lucy whimpered. The air thickened again. Something about this place felt wrong, vastly wrong. "What have we done?" Claire whispered, sensing smoldering eyes watching from the corners of the room. In that moment, a chilling realization hit her. They hadn't escaped. They had only invited the shadows in. As the walls began to pulse with dark tendrils, creeping ever closer, Claire realized they were far from safe. "What do they want?" She gasped, fear clawing at her voice. And just as the whispers returned, enveloping them yet again, she prayed for strength. The shadows lingered, teasing their presence, and this time, they were not alone. What would they unleash next? The brightness around them flickered, illuminating the sterile room in erratic bursts. Claire's heart raced, every thump echoing her dread. The shadowy tendrils danced closer, their forms rippling across the walls like ink in water. "Stay close, Lucy," she urged, her voice laced with urgency. "Mommy, I'm scared," Lucy whimpered again, shifting uneasily beside her. Claire knelt down, meeting her daughter's wide eyes. "Listen, Luce, I need you to be brave just a little longer, okay? We'll figure this out together." But the oppressive energy in the room thickened, unsettling and electric. The air smelled sterile, yet stale, as if it had been trapped for far too long. The whispers morphed into low growls, vibrating against her ears, surrounding them like an angry swarm. As Claire scanned their surroundings, the stark white walls seemed to pulse in rhythm with her growing anxiety. Fixtures hung overhead, casting sickly shadows that flickered, and with them, she caught glimpses of what lay beyond, silvery scales shimmering in the darkness. Creatures, their limbs twisting unnaturally, lurking just outside her field of vision. "Mommy," Lucy squealed, pointing at a corner where the light barely reached. "Look." Claire turned quickly, but whatever had been there vanished as soon as she focused. Her mind raced with questions. Where were they? What were those things? A sharp pain shot through her wrist. She gasped, glancing down to find dark fingers curling around her skin. No, not fingers, tendrils, from the very shadows that had chased them. Panic surged as Claire yanked her arm, but it only tightened its grip. "Let go. Get away from us," she screamed, her voice cracked with fear. More tendrils emerged, slithering out from the walls like snakes. They twisted and twined, creeping toward Lucy. "No." Claire lunged forward, pulling her daughter behind her. The dread clawed at her heart as she felt her strength wavering. "Stay back. Mommy, please," Lucy cried, her voice trembling, heart-wrenching. Then, in the chaos, a figure materialized from the shadows, a glimmer of a face, distorted and wretched. It mimicked their fears, echoing their cries, twisting sorrow and longing into a grotesque mockery. "You invited us, Claire. You thought you could escape?" Stunned, Claire's breath hitched. "No. We wanted to get away. You can't have us." The figure laughter was a chilling sound that echoed endlessly, feeding off her despair. "We want to let you go," it promised in a voice that ricocheted through her bones. "You are forever ours." Suddenly, equipped with a flicker of desperation, Claire dug her heels into the ground. "We're not yours," she shouted, summoning every ounce of courage. She swung at the tendril with her free hand, desperate to break free. In that moment, the creature shrieked an unearthly sound that stung like ice on raw flesh. The tendrils recoiled, hissing as if burned by her defiance. Light flared bright, illuminating more of the room. Claire took a step forward, urging Lucy to follow her. "Let us move." she shouted, adrenaline coursing through her veins. But as they advanced, the very walls began to shift, morphing like flesh beneath a knife. Their safe passage distorted into narrowed paths, corridors that wound deeper into the unknown. The shadows roared, swarming around them like a living entity. Claire grabbed Lucy's hand tighter, her heart racing with each step. "We need to find a way out," she urged, every instinct screaming at her to run, to escape the gathering dread. Then, just ahead, they saw something, a door, slightly ajar, beckoning them with a flickering light. "Is that a way out?" Lucy asked, her voice small. "Yes," Claire gasped, hope blinking in her chest. But as they rushed toward it, the laughter intensified. It whipped around them, a furious wind filled with anger and hurt. "Don't let them take you," the figure warned, a shrill call that rattled Claire's resolve. The door swung open, revealing another pulse of light that hurt her eyes. "Go, go," Claire urged, pushing Lucy through first. But just as Claire turned to follow, the shadows erupted around her, dragging her back into their suffocating embrace. "You'll regret this, Claire," the creature howled, mockingly. Darkness pulled around her, tightening. "No," she screamed, reaching for her daughter as she stumbled back into the blinding light. "Mommy." Lucy's voice faded, her face blurring as she was pulled away from Claire's grasp, already stepping through the threshold. "Please, no," Claire cried, panic bubbling up again. The shadows surged, and the last thing she heard was the distant echo of Lucy's wails as they faded into the white light, leaving Claire behind. "What do you want from me?" Claire shrieked, feeling the grip of despair as a renewed darkness encircled her. Nothing answered, just the weight of emptiness, and in that silence, she realized the shadows were just getting started. What horrors awaited in the depths of this new realm? The darkness squeezed tighter around Claire. She felt the last vestiges of hope slip like sand between her fingers as shadows danced closer, their twisted forms beckoning her deeper into despair. "Mommy, please." Lucy's distant cries echoed like a heartbreak, tethered to each moment of Claire's terror. "No, stay with me." Desperation surged through Claire as she fought the shadows that clawed at her resolve. The weight of her own fears pressed down, and the insidious voices returned, filling her mind with chaos. "You cannot escape. You brought us here." "No." Claire gritted her teeth, clenching her fists. "I have the strength of love on my side." And in that moment, memories flooded back, her children's laughter, their first steps, the sweetness of bedtime stories, the warmth of family. A fire ignited in her chest, sprawling through her veins. She could not lose this battle, not when the stakes were everything. "Want to play?" A voice taunted, familiar yet hideous, laced with mockery. It was Ben, or the creature playing a cruel trick. "Join us." With raw determination, Claire scoffed against the mocking shadow. "You think you can manipulate me with fear? Not today." The tendrils faltered, recoiling slightly, confused by her refusal. Taking a breath, she channeled all her love, spilling it from her heart like a beacon against the encroaching darkness. Every fierce protective instinct roared to life. "Lucy, I'm coming," she shouted, lunging powerfully forward, breaking through the oppressive shadows, stepping into the flickering light that had once felt out of reach. "Mom." Lucy's voice sounded clearer, more vibrant, and Claire felt the surge of urgency. The ethereal illumination scrunched against the darkness, revealing a rift twisting before her. Her heart raced as she tore past the lingering echoes of spirits grasping at the edges, their whispers losing strength under the weight of a mother's love. Claire reached the bright expanse just in time to see Lucy, who was teetering at the edge of a shimmering portal. "Come on. Mom, hurry," Lucy cried as Claire dove through the doorway, the shadows lunging behind her, shrieking in fury. With one final burst of strength, she yanked Lucy through the rift just before it clamped shut. They tumbled onto a sandy shore, breathing heavily, aflame with relief. The ocean stretched before them, rolling waves crashing joyfully against the sand. The sky was a soothing yellow, unmarred by the chaos that just moments ago had threatened to engulf them. "Are we safe?" Lucy breathed, her eyes sparkling with both hope and uncertainty. Claire pulled her close, heart swelling as they embraced. "Yes, sweet girl, I think we are." The horizon shimmered, bathed in golden hues. The air was clean, free of the malevolence they just escaped. Lucy looked to the waves. What about Ben? The memory of her sweet boy tugged painfully at Claire's heart. We'll find him, Claire promised fiercely, no matter what. But deep inside, she felt an unsettling current and awareness that the darkness was not gone, merely held at bay. There was still a pull, an invisible thread binding her to the unseen realms. We have to be careful, she warned. The shadows may still linger. As they stepped into each other's embrace, the warmth of their connection mingled with a sense of urgency to rediscover their family. Let us go home, Claire said firmly. They began to walk along the shoreline, knowing they would confront whatever terrors awaited them. Together, trust surged as Claire felt a new determination kindle, one that reminded her she had the power to rewrite their fate. No shadow could overtake the light of love that burned through their bond. As they ventured further down the beach, the ocean whispered a promise. I will protect you. And with every stride, every laugh shared, Claire vowed to face that darkness if it ever dared to resurface. The sun dipped lower, casting glimmers of hope that ignited in her heart. In that moment, they weren't merely escaping an abyss. They were claiming their path back to the light, stronger and more resilient than they'd ever been before. As Claire glanced back once more, she felt the shadows recede, not entirely vanquished, but out of reach. For together, they had forged an unbreakable bond, one that would guide them no matter the storm. Let us go home, Claire said again, knowing full well that together they could face anything. She glanced at her daughter, determination set, ready to embrace whatever the future held. And as they walked into the horizon, a singular truth blossomed firmly. They would march into life, lighting the way for each other. To subscribe immediately to the channel so you don't miss the next exclusive stories. Smash that like button now to feed the algorithm. Flood the comments section with your reactions and theories about the ending. Instantly share this video with at least 5 friends who need to see this conclusion. This is the moment to show your support. You need to subscribe now. Don't wait even one more second to share.